What do we really want in this life? Is it the iPhone 16 Pro? Maybe the Max version? Are we waiting for the new Samsung to come out? Are we looking for a new car, perhaps? Maybe the 2025, 2026 Toyota Camry XLE V6? Doesn't sound half bad, right? Or maybe it's the end of the day and we've had a good hard day at work and it's time for us to order a $60 cheeseburger, $60 pizza on Uber Eats. Or maybe we've been working so much and so now it's just time for us to have a vacation and we want to go to the Bahamas or Hawaii and maybe get drunk, get high, have a real good time. Maybe smoke some opium, although I don't think that's much of, you can't go many places for opium tourism anymore, from what I understand. I guess you could go to Seattle or you could go to Los Angeles, you could go to Skid Row. So this is an important question, kind of a fundamental question, especially if we are Americans and if we're coming from a position of wealth. We've got some ability, some capacity to make some of that moolah, some of that American dollar. And the American dollar has a lot of buying power. We've got Amazon, so. Before we open up this question and go further into it, I think it's nice to invite some gratitude that we have enough health of body, enough health of mind, enough health of environment to even bring up this question. Because to ask a question like this, it really takes a sense of stopping, right? So a lot of people don't have that for whatever reason. Maybe they're in extreme poverty, maybe they're having food poisoning. I recently got over a bout of food poisoning and I certainly wasn't, stopping in some kind of profound way, even a minusculely profound way to ask, what do I really want? What am I really looking for? I just felt sick, I just felt horrible. So we can stop for a moment and bring up a sense of gratitude. And I don't know what you are grateful for, what your gratitude kind of is connected to. But for me, I have a lot of gratitude for the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, which is kind of, once you get past the Buddhism block, then you find out about the kind of triple elements, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha that make up Buddhism. We call it the triple gem. So maybe take a moment. I know nobody wants to meditate, nobody wants to practice like this, but just to take a few moments to stop and breathe deeply, hear deeply, and really feel and bring up this sense of gratitude for this moment. For this chance, this rare opportunity to be here now. Not to be in a state of conflict or worry or stress or complicated thinking. these moments are actually rare and precious, yet much more common than we realize, because we're not looking for that, right? We're looking for the cheeseburger, we're looking for the Mercedes Benz or something like that. Me, I'm okay with a Camry. I'm okay with this moment, and I feel gratitude for that. And to really seep into, it's not a sinking, but a kind of a connecting and a going in, a going through, going throughout. Allow that awareness to really seep into that ooga booga mind. Ooh, 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 ooh. Whoa, whoa. The mind or someone or some situation always trying to give us a fright, convince us of something. Ooga booga. What's gonna happen? So just give some space for that happiness to be there. And sometimes it's not quite happiness, but we can give some space for that grit to be there, to show up, to offer our awareness to this real experience that's happening, this kind of undeniable experience. It's a very precious treasure, this opportunity for me to teach, to be in the role of a teacher, and for anyone watching, listening, following along. It's a very precious opportunity and a treasure to be in the position of a student, a speaker, a listener, concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Is very valuable, very powerful. And as we breathe and listen, I'm noticing right now that my hearing faculty is a very powerful connection point for my just awareness, just being aware. Don't try to hold that awareness in. Don't try to restrict anything, but let it flow out throughout all the aspects of your entire life at this moment. Past moments, future moments, they're all right here. That's really the access point, that mindset that realizes the silliness of telling death, wait a minute, I've got a dentist appointment today. Or trying to tell the rain that you wanted to go for a walk. So real powerful kind of stupidity that we get ourselves locked into. What my teacher, Sayadaw Tamasara, calls ignorance and attachment, that we affiliate ourselves with far too often, that we identify with far too often, kind of complacent with it. too often. So the meditation and the effects or uh, the positive effects that we get from meditation, it's very much a kind of releasing of what we're grasping onto, what we're attached to. It's a releasing of that grasping, that ignorance and attachment mindset. But if we practice meditation to get something out of it, to kind of, train our mind in some way, there can be a lot of side effects, negative, unnecessary negative side effects that go along with that. So rather than practicing meditation to try and get something, practice meditation as not getting something. Not doing something. Or at least not doing something that is graspable, like fully understandable by your ego. And allow that space of your ego not being able to fully understand or grasp what's going on to be spacious, to be full, to be wide out. We learn to allow that widening out to actually be a source of nourishment. Be a medicine to those mental health issues, those blockages in the mind, those complicated negative thoughts, those worries, those fears. To widen out, we deprioritize the fixation on negative mental states, negative mental formations, which far too often are something we actually get addicted to perpetuating. really approach this path and to ask questions that have power behind them. One of the most important things is actually a sense of faith. In this most simplistic terms, you can see faith as a kind of trust that is leading you to what you want. But without a sense of wonder, WONDER, and without a sense of doubt, you won't be able to question or look at what you really want, what's really important to you, because you will be constantly fixated on and attached to and confused by all of these appearances, advertisements. And not just advertisements aren't just out there, advertisements are also happening within the mind in terms of thoughts. So, America is known as the advertising capital of the world, isn't it? Isn't America the advertising capital of the world? But actually, we've got our own homegrown advertising industry within our own mind, within the ego. And what people tend to be happening to be believing, we could say what people seem to be led to believe, is that, and at the chagrin of the advertisers, is that these advertisements are fundamentally about you, not just about what you want, but what you need. So this sense of doubt or wonder, like this openness of mind, this kind of, in some sense, questioning, but it's more of an awe. It's more of an openness. The all of, this is AWL, the all of wonder. the expansiveness of seeing, right? Or the expansiveness of hearing, which is very often getting locked into, our devices. We're watching TikTok videos, we're watching YouTube videos, etc. Is getting kind of minimized. But actually, the seeing faculty is very profound. It's very wide out. The hearing faculty is very wide out. So when we, for example, hear something, the profundity or the wide outness of the hearing itself is broader, more full spectrum, more widened out than just that thing. This situation, oh, thank you. This situation is not, in fact, what we could call a situation, but rather it's like in everything. If a situation is something we have to kind of put it into a box. We have to have something, someone, some place, some time, some desire, some fear, all these different elements, especially need all of these different separate self-entities. But in the mind of the Buddha, for example, there are no separate self-entities. So this is kind of like a universal mind. The mind of the Buddha is kind of a universal mind. Even to call it mind may be a bit disingenuous when we look at it that way. Mind is something that's separate from everything. So what we're doing here, what we're working with here, is this spaciousness of everything. And that everything or every something is bringing us back to, or reminding or inviting, this everythingness, this spaciousness of everythingness. But this everything or everythingness is already not a thing. In the same way that to call the universe is just, in the most profound, most ultimate, most scientific, most advanced, super IQ human being that could ever exist, is still scientifically a primate on a rock, saying something, having a kind of a self-fixation or self-referencing idea, right? This is my rock, this is my body, I think this, etc. This is ultimate. Okay, monkey. There's nothing wrong with monkeys. It's just you wouldn't want them to drive your car. So in the same way, the faith that we bring up in the practice of being a Buddhist and being a serious spiritual seeker and a practitioner on the path is not about someone at all, for sure. Not about someone. But in the world of watching TikTok videos and being someone, in that world, there are someones who relatively can help us more and more to understand about this and to continue on this path. But you can't determine, you shouldn't determine that faith or that trust or that reliance based on the advertisements that you're seeing out there or the advertisements that you're hearing internally, the advertisements of your thoughts. Rather, just like in meditation, it's a kind of we build faith through meditation, or we get the good effects from meditation without the negative side effects by not trying to get something out of it. That's where the magic happens. That's where you get the juice. That's where you get the 5-star for free. So this is really important because we, in this realm, in this kind of relative situations, we are human beings, and we have to know how to trust each other, mainly without being misled or led around by the advertisements within our own mind. And this brings us back to the original question, the title of this video here on YouTube. What is it that we really want? What is it that we're really looking for? And instead of using thoughts to navigate the mind, we answer these questions, or we explore these questions more so as taking the position of a passenger in the spaceship of our mindfulness, okay, or our meditation method. Buddhism is not about a normal way of navigating the mind, of thinking through things. That's already going to happen. It's more that we are a passenger on the spaceship, the wide out space, everything, the whole universe of the mind, of our meditation method. And so when we practice meditation in a very, very serious way, we replace the self with the meditation method. The self is still there. The advertisements are going on, the thoughts, the hallucinations, the stories, the concepts, the ideas, all the different things, pain, this, that. But we're on this journey of exploration to experience the everythingness of not something that can be explained, not something that can be understood conceptually, not something that our ordinary mind, in terms of thinking, in terms of conceptualizing, in terms of just constantly looking at something to grab on to, could ever reach. And so the prowess, the prestige, the demur of a realized practitioner, a real practitioner, somebody who's got the juice, is that not grasping is known to be the path, is known to be the answer to grasping. Grasping, clinging, attaching to, holding on to, conceptualizing. Any good spiritual teacher worth their salt, when you bring them some, built up conceptualization about spirituality or meditation or your understanding, your so realized, whatever, is gonna take that dirt off your face. Try to help you learn how to take that dirt off your face. And the reason that in Buddhism, the Buddha taught a path is not because the truth is not the truth, right? This is the unique premise of Buddhism, is that the Buddha's divine right, or the Buddha's divine position, was realizing or awakening to what is already the truth, the nature. That was the Buddha's waking up, not special meditation experiences but that, oh wow, it's like this. And it's not like that. But not conceptually, through realization, woke up to that, right? So that is the case. But the Buddha, out of his great compassion, originally the Buddha was not going to teach, because he looked at all these people, he said, my God. He didn't say, my God. Buddha wasn't a Christian. Buddha wasn't even a Buddhist. How could the Buddha have been a Buddhist? The Buddha is just awake. The Buddha looked around after his awakening. He said, I'm not going to, I'm just going to have to hang out and then maybe, go, because nobody's going to understand this. And then, some devas, some high beings, very spiritual beings. This is the other thing for, as an American or as an Englishman, whatever kind of being you are from European background, with the James Bond movies and Titanic and the Power Rangers and all these things, there's a real solidity and confidence that we have in our mind about our understanding of reality. This is definitely the way things are. But if you look at American media, if you look at how we consume media and how our minds work as Americans, and this is not just our thing, it's a human thing, but Americans are kind of this expression of that, right? When, as Americans, we grew up in America, we're Americans. When we watch American movies, right? Daniel Craig, Last Life to Die, right? Final one. We say, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is the, this is the realest person that we've ever seen. This is the realest situation that we've ever seen in many ways. I mean, that's why we watch these films. But actually, that's completely not real, completely inauthentic, completely assumed up, manipulated up, contrived. It's the most contrived thing you can imagine. And yet it doesn't feel that way when we watch it. If we watched it and it felt contrived, we wouldn't connect with it. Our emotions wouldn't trigger. We wouldn't watch a film like that. We wouldn't rate it very highly. And yet we do. We see those movies. That's incredible. Incredibly horrible, incredibly disingenuous, incredibly not real. So what we have to understand is that, and this is where the doubt comes in, or the wonder. Okay, it's not a skepticism. The skepticism is just, for most people, skepticism is just them continuing to placate their ego and run around in circles and keep the same kind of cycle of thinking going on, right? But this doubt that I'm talking about is a kind of great doubt, a wonder, a questioning, a searching, being a seeker. We this doubt applies to everything, especially those premises and understandings that are very deep and subtle in our mind about what reality is and how the world is, how the world works, as we're all characters in a movie, in a bigger movie. So there are many things that we don't understand at all. And the Buddhist path doesn't just say, okay, you've got to fall into this pit of emptiness and despair and confusion and just be completely not lost. No, the Buddha says, look, I'm not lost for sure. That's what the Buddha said. The Buddha said, after the Buddha became enlightened, he went back to these 5 sadhus, these 5 monks that he had known before. And they were meditation masters, and they starved themselves, and they were super, destitute, and they just lived out on the land. And the Buddha came back, and he was looking healthy, and he had eaten some food and all that. And he told them, he said, "I've got it." They said, "You've got it, but you were eating food." Yeah, monk, you have a smartphone. You're not a monk. So the Buddha came back. He said, "No, I've got it." He explained these things. He said, "All of this is burning. All of this is temporary. All of this is impermanent. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, thoughts, feelings, formations, everything that is grasped onto, to be rejected, to be kept and held, to be built up, to be poured down, is temporary." And their eyes opened. But they were already, had a lot of experience and good karma. They were face to face with the Buddha. So anyway, the Buddha taught this path, right? And so the start of the path is dana, and we can say dana sila. This is the start of the path. But you need a kind of faith to go into that. So how do we build up that faith? How do we build up that trust? To be generous, to be good, to be virtuous. How do we take that seriously enough to practice it? Because it doesn't matter what you believe. What you believe is just advertisements. And you may have bought those advertisements, and now you're trying to sell, you're trying to advertise, I believe this, I believe this. Oh yeah, okay, whatever. So how do we make the practice of generosity something that's serious for us? How do we make the practice of forgiveness something that's serious for us? Well, we start in the most simple way that we can. We start in the most direct way that we can. We experiment with that. And it's not a linear path. This path kind of all goes together. But you've got to start with what you can start with. And the precepts, how do we start following the precepts? Well, there's only 5. What are the 5 precepts in Buddhism? How do we start to practice those? Well, we just do it. Don't kill right now. There's an ant. There's an ant. I've seen ants going around this room. Okay. I don't want to sleep with ants. I don't want to eat ants. If I'm taking a rest and ants are crawling all over me, that's going to be difficult. Well, why don't I kill those things? They're not big, nasty spiders. They don't leave a big mess if I kill them. They're not, like miniature pigs or something like that that crawl around. So just killing them, it's not even going to make a mess. Why don't I kill them? Because those ants want to live. Why do I need to kill it? So I don't kill it. Okay, I'm not killing. Not stealing. Maybe there's something here I want that's not mine. Okay, well, I don't take it. Not lying, not speaking harshly. Okay, don't do it. Being very careful with sexual energy. Be careful. Be mindful. Remember that. Remind yourself somehow. I'm reminding you. Because I'm reminding myself by doing this. By teaching. This is a practice path for me. Don't take drugs or intoxicants. Don't get high. Don't get drunk. They call it getting high, but it's actually getting low. Your thoughts get out of control when you get high. You go under thinking. We are in Buddhism, we're going above thinking. We're going higher than thinking. Who cares what you think? It's what you do that follows you. Thoughts are just happening. Okay? Yes, it's according to cause and effect. It's according to karma, but it's not something you need to be, you're very much in control of. So we practice those 5 precepts. And when we're serious enough about generosity and precepts, we can start to actually ask the question, what is it that I really want? What is it that I really want in my life? If you can't ask that question deeply, you can't meditate deeply. If you can't sit there for a few moments in meditation with the question, what do I really want in my life? A question is an opening, not to fill it up, but it's an opening. If you can't stay there for a few moments with that question, you can't practice meditation seriously. What do I really want out of this life? When we have this heart, this interest in the answer to a great question, this will lead us to a kind of a penetrative mind, a sharp mind, a deep-looking mind. And this is where we go in meditation. This is how we use our meditation method. This is how we use our concentration. This is how we use our relaxation to go deeply, deeply, deeply into the mind through all those layers of advertisements, all those layers of thoughts, all those layers of stories, all that internal monologue going on. And what we find once we get through that, and sometimes it happens naturally. Sometimes it doesn't take a lot of contrived force to actually penetrate through all these advertisements, all these thoughts going off on the mind. What we find is that what we all really want, just a few words that I can bring up, is a kind of spacious, peaceful freedom. And if you don't want that, I don't mind, you know. We want different things from time to time, but when we practice meditation, we're going really deeply into the mind, really deeply into the profundity of our awareness, the depth of our heart, of our life, of our everything. Okay, that's the Dhamma talk for it's evening time here in India. If we have any questions, you're welcome to ask. Any practice-related questions or sharing your experiences? Welcome. I just came back to India from Nepal. I went there to meet some Tibetan Buddhist teachers. I was quite sick for most of the trip, so that was very difficult, very unpleasant. I noticed very strongly that when the body got sick, the mind kind of followed that, right? So felt fear, uncertainty, worry. Oh my God, my path is falling apart. But it was just a stomach ache, really. Food poisoning and fever and weakness. But everything passes. So we shouldn't take those temporary experiences too seriously. Even we have a very positive spiritual experience or wealth experience or whatever it might be, not to take those too seriously. Yeah, Melissa there, who's been a follower for a student for a while, maybe a year or more, and came here to India to become a nun, or has become a nun. Welcome, Melissa. And Penny wants friendship. Can she? Penny, the only friend that you can really rely on is within yourself. So try to deepen the friendship that you have with yourself through the practice of mindfulness, through the practice of Buddhism, and try to take it very seriously as much as you can. And as a monk, I don't really have friendships as much as I have followers or students or donors, um, maybe a few of what I could call friendships with some of my monastic siblings, other monks. But even that, the life of a monk is very solitary. Even if in public or doing work together, still the mind is being experienced within myself. And so mostly I'm looking at the relationship within myself. And I also have relationships with teachers, right? So I have my own teachers. I'm a monk, so I'm not much of a donor, but I am a follower and a student. If you meet a monk, you can call that monk Bante. It depends on what country they're from. But that's another good practice that you can do, is to go to a Buddhist temple in your area. You can use Google Maps and search for Buddhist temple. And usually there's quite a few Buddhist temples if you live anywhere near a metropolitan city. And even then, even if you're not in a metropolitan city, sometimes you'll be surprised to actually find there's a Buddhist temple or meditation center nearby you that you can go and participate with. Also, I have a lot of teachings on YouTube, so um, many things you can go back to and learn more about the path. I'm still a young monk and a young teacher, and Buddhism in the West is young as well, so I have to be patient and resilient and kind of keep showing up to the practice, keep showing up to the path, and keep connected with those people that are concerned with the path, reliable people, as reliable as you can. So if you go to monklife.one, for example, you can get some recommended teachers, recommended talks um, on our website, monklife.one. Yeah, there's a real joy and peace from being disconnected and free from so many interpersonal relationships and responsibilities and social contracts that aren't involved with the path, right? Aren't involved with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And that's really one of my privilege of being a monk, is that I have that chance to step back, to step away, to renounce, to detach, to abandon. And that's something I'll be doing more of in the future as well. And I encourage other people to do that in small ways, to take steps back from your outward responsibilities with relationships, with music, with movies, with TV shows, and kind of with jobs, all that kind of things that you maybe give extra energy to that's not necessary, and kind of turn inward and give some energy to not understanding, not being fixated on outward appearances. Because when we're so focused, when we're so attached to understanding, we're also attached to what other people understand. What does this person think? What does that person think? Ta, 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 ta. Goes on and on. Then we're trying to convince people to, share our preferences. Oh, I don't like this. You shouldn't like this either. You like this? Well, have you heard about that? And that's not really concerned with the Dhamma. It's not concerned with the truth. It's not concerned with mindfulness and detachment. It's not concerned with loving kindness, compassion, dana, sila, bhavana, samadhi, panya. So it's a tough road, but the toughness is nourishing, right? So we have to be open to that toughness. Otherwise, we're just always looking for the next drive-through. We're always looking for the next Taco Bell gordita, and that's no way to live. That's an irresponsible way to live. So we've got to tip the scale, right? We know that there's definitely a hungry Bante in here. Where's the Taco Bell? Where's the Wendy's Baconator? What's Bodh Gaya? India doesn't have a Wendy's. What am I going to do? That Bante's there, okay? And he's always knocking. He's always waiting to come around. So it's not that you just get rid of that and then you're some being or something like that, but rather that you realize that that's there on the scale and you realize that that's not right. That's not the path. That's not meaningful. That's not beneficial. That's not wonderful in the beginning, middle, and end. Not what you want to do. So you tip the scale. You weigh down. You put your pesos on the scale, and now that hungry Bante looking for the Wendy's Baconator, he's going like this, but that scale's too heavy. And now you're going forward on the path. You're spiraling forward. And it's very difficult to go back. It's very difficult to go into these lower realms of existence. It's very difficult to go into states of psychosis. Very difficult to go into deep states of depression. It's very difficult to go into sustained periods of anxiousness. So this is what Buddhism is all about. I've said this a few times before, but Buddhism is about curing mental illness. That's what Buddhism is about. I'm not using mental illness, according to the people who are lobotomizing, rebellious teenage women 30 years ago or whatever. I'm not involved with that. But I'm talking about the illness of the mind, the suffering of the mind. Buddhism is about curing that and resolving that and making sure that that doesn't happen. So anyways, deep blessings, love and light. Thank you all for being here. See, the power just went out. Everything's going according to schedule. So we'll just finish up with paying homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and then I'll be on my way. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham saranam gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, be well.